Welcome everyone to Willington podcast. This is the second ever, and today I have Ross Harper. So to give you a bit of background, Ross and I used to play rugby together. I do have, if I can share my screen, if you'll believe it, Ross, a photo of us ripping it up.
Really?
Can you see that?
Crikey, I'm not even wearing socks.
No, sevens, wasn't it? I don't know if that was the Law Sevens or one of those.
Was that the who dislocated their shoulder?
Yes. He'll be on here in a picture somewhere. He was one of those. I can't remember what his name was now. Let me have a quick look because he'll be there.
It was our new fly half.
There he is. Oh, no, that's still you.
No, I'm lying down, but it was
this guy here.
Joe, was it?
Can't remember what his name was, but yeah, he was like our marquee signing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then we damaged him in the sevens.
That was
not good. But yeah, that was probably the last time we played together.
I mean, probably the only time we played together.
But the reason I wanted to get you on was I think you're a really interesting story because I'll let you tell everyone about it, but you've done a few sports, but then you actually found the sport that you absolutely love and that you're so suited to. When was it? Like mid-20s, early 20s?
Yeah, so I'm 30 tomorrow, and I think it was 2017 I had a first crack, so yeah, 3 years.
Yeah.
27.
So 27. So in terms of your sporting journey, what sports have you done throughout your life that's kind of led you to here?
So pretty active from a young age. A lot of off-road kind of cycling, like BMXing to start with, building your own jumps and stuff as a kid, and then football really. Although it was pretty evident in my early football days that I was a contact orientated player. So rugby very quickly became my weekend sport, the Saturday sport that your mum and dad and that took you to. I dabbled with gymnastics at quite a high level. It's probably my most successful sport technically until I was about 13, 14. So I was doing kind of national tournaments of that. So rugby and gymnastics kind of from a young age really, which obviously don't go together kind of explicitly well, but then as a kid it's not as physical rugby, so you can kind of get away with the you wouldn't be a gymnast and a rugby player in your 20s with regards to the abuse, but so yeah, and then played a bit of tennis, bit of kind of badminton and stuff, and kind of continued cycling a little bit, but mainly off-road and stuff, and then once we got to kind of university or teenage years, it was just rugby, rugby, various academies as such, from colleges and things like that, and then the mighty London Cornish when I grew up and moved to London, playing in the grand dizzy heights of, I can't remember, Raging Bull Merit Table 2, something like that. That was my diverse career until 2017.
Yeah, and we spoke just before about burnout, which we'll get onto it again later. But you were saying how you think you've really benefited from finding that sport late.
Yeah, so I mean, triathlon, or more so maybe running. I know there was kind of a boom in the early 90s of marathons was the thing to do as a kind of middle-aged or approaching your later like 20s sorts of thing. Everybody wanted to say they'd done a marathon. And yeah, it is a sport that you're in at from a young age. If you've kind of swum from 9, 10, 11 triathlon, and maybe if a runner, you'll come through the distances from kind of tracks sort of stuff and cross country, and then potentially run marathons. I've got a very good friend now who's running marathons in her later 20s and has just qualified technically for the Olympics and stuff. But she's gone through the age groups and ranges. And so, yeah, you either get a kind of a very novice or people that pick it up late in their 20s and can have, if they're committed, kind of a very successful 5-10 years, and and become an elite age grouper, or maybe even turn professional. Or you get these kind of free your Brownlees and your Jan Fredinos, and particularly in the endurance world, who are at late 30s, or well, the Brownlees a bit earlier, but Fredino's kind of late 30s, and yeah, been doing it for decades. There definitely is this gap between kind of people that, if they did do it as kids, kind of stopped doing it in their early 20s, and then a big kind of plethora of people pick it up in their mid 20s and so forth. But yeah.
And what led you? Because obviously I know you played rugby and I saw you throughout at the club. But what led you just to do it? Was it a hobby?
It's a really the honest answer is I used to design traffic lights for Transport for London, and from Tower Hill to Parliament Square was a set of traffic lights that I was heavily involved in building and then commissioning. And when we put that cycle lane in, for anyone who knows the Victoria Embankment there, I thought, wouldn't it be good to see how fast you could cycle along here? And somebody said, well, the London Triathlon, the route is from the XL, which is further east, to Big Ben and back. And they actually obviously closed the road. So another lad from Cornish, I entered the London Triathlon with him and said, well, once the rugby season's over, we'll learn to swim and what have you between April and July or August, whenever the London Tri is, and we'll have a go at one. And it very quickly escalated from there, to be honest. And yeah, so, and I think I was 9th fastest on the day along those set of traffic lights. So that was the goal. I looked up the Strava segment straight away.
And so what at the point, because we probably haven't said, you obviously, as you said, you were football, gymnastics, rugby, and now triathlon is your life essentially now.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And so you did that first triathlon, and what was the moment where you went, oh my God, this is what I love, this is what I'm going to concentrate on and kind of specialize in? Yeah.
So I bowed out of London Cornish at the very top of the game. Made my debut for the first team, and I scored, and we won the league. We're undefeated. I think the following weekend we won the Twos Cup, and then
that was the year I was injured. I remember when we were undefeated and got promoted. Sure.
Yeah, and then the weekend after that was week 1. I've got 10 weeks to the London Triathlon. Let's go swimming. I rung a friend up of mine from uni who I know had done a few triathlons, and said, look, enter the London one, come with me. And he then mentioned this Ironman kind of distance triathlon to me. And within a few weeks, without even doing London, I'd kind of committed to that, which was later in the year in September time. And just very quickly, from kind of, I don't know, training on your own and seeing kind of progress, yeah, just having these mini goals. Like, I'd never swam 1,000 meters. I remember doing a swim run. I think it was a 1.5K swim and 5K run up in North London. And I was like, oh yeah, this is good. Like, that was good fun. I don't even think there was positions on the day or whatever you sort of thing. And just immediately could see the benefit of, like, well, if I work hard, I can win stuff or, do well. And as good as a team environment is, and I'd just been in a team that was relatively successful, you're always dependent on other people, and that, the having the kind of fruits of it's all your kind of labor really appealed to me.
Yeah.
And it's you on your own that day, from moment one of doing triathlon. My family have been on board. They all came to the London one. They've been to every Ironman. I've found my girlfriend through triathlon. She comes to every race. She does it. So it's still a team kind of thing, and you have to have people helping you, because you're essentially trying to do 3 sports like, at once. But yeah, when it comes down to it on the day, and it's just you, that it got me going a bit more than it did trotting out onto a rugby pitch with 18 other hairy blokes that sometimes I didn't even know half their names because Guilty made some phone calls.
I think the reason I love your story is because I get so many kids who, by the time they could be in a couple years into their primary school life, and they've already labelled themselves unsporty. They don't like rugby, football, cricket. They might play a sport. They might do a gymnastics or a tennis or table tennis, but because they haven't played in those A teams potentially, they might just assume they're unsporty. And I think even though you were sporty, so it's a slightly different story. I just think kids need to realise that there's so many opportunities out there, and there's triathlons are very lucky. But I like the word as well. If you can't swim, you could do you can just cycle and run, can't you? There's different variations of it. I also sorry.
You could do it as a relay. I mean, triathlon relays even now in the Olympics. You still swim, bike, and run in that scenario. But the half Ironman in Stafford is one of the biggest relay ones in the country, where 3 different people have to do each of the one person swims, runs, and so forth. So it's not the end of the world sort of thing if you can't do one or the other. Or
exactly. It's quite adaptable, isn't it? And I just think globally as well, in terms of every sport around the world, there's so many opportunities. Like, I'm late 30s now. Growing up, there wasn't a huge range of sports that I was exposed to. And I always think, because I think the thing about rugby is I love the contact. I have a very low regard for my body. And I just think I would have loved downhill skiing or some of those real dangerous sports. I think I would have loved. I was always told skiing that I had a very mixed skill to bravery ratio. Like, they were very off, very low skill, high bravery. And I used to take on stupid things, but
I'm like that skiing and downhill mountain biking.
Yeah.
I always ask, how do I stop after I've set off, sort of thing.
But it's a really interesting thing, and I think if we'll delve into what you have to do now, because I think the question I've got here is, how tough is it? And I think you're in one of those sports where it is brutal to be good at, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the large population of a triathlon, you go to any size event, a good 70% of the people doing it are doing it to complete it.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference between how much time you need to invest in terms of to complete one. But obviously there's varying distances right up to the kind of, I mean, there's double or quadruple Ironmans in one day, like, really, really ultra stuff sort of thing.
Yeah.
But to compete, to be in the top 10% and in theory to go to the kind of bigger races, you need to be in the top 1% of your kind of category. You've got to put the time and effort in. There's a fair amount of abuse that you're different to kind of rugby abuse, but just abuse of your body with regards to training 2-3 times a day, long hours. Mentally it's tough. Like that's the bigger side of it potentially, is having the motivation to do it every day.
I've got some questions on that, because I need advice. Complete my 5Ks.
So it's a tough sport, and then I mean, there's no getting away from it. It's not a cheap sport either, so it can be quite elitist, and you can't necessarily buy performance, but if you do want to do really well, you've got to be riding a good bike. You've got to have a good wetsuit that's not £100, it's £600 and sort of stuff. That's right at the top end, but you see it even in the age group field, and you definitely see it in the pro field, people losing races or not doing as well in races because they're bound into either sponsorship contracts of equipment that's not as good, or they don't have access to it through their own personal funding. So it is a bit kind of tough at the top to some degree. Look at some people and think, oh yeah, that's a bit harsh. Or
so for my one viewer, just to let them know, so that bike behind you, it's a her, and what was her name again?
Her name's Carla.
That's it. If you give it a name, you care more, don't you? You look after
yeah. And Amy's bike Rose is in the corner as well. They sleep together in the corner.
And I know it's vulgar to talk about money, but in terms of that bike alone, what's the ballpark?
So in February, when I raced in Dubai, and I had it set up for race day, it was somewhere between 7 and 8 grand, maybe, if you were to buy everything at retail.
Blimey. And are you still able? So I want to ask you: are you still working and doing this alongside it, or is there now a balance that? Because I suppose this is another question. Where are you in terms of in terms of, are you semi-contracted, or I know you obviously had a coach for many years. Like where are you in the grand scheme of triathlons?
So I work full time, and if we weren't in lockdown, I'd be commuting in and out of London from Hertfordshire still.
Okay.
So yeah, normal 9 to 5 ish. Manage a small team, and got a fairly decent job working at Transport for London still. And by no means am I given special allowances or more time off or what have you. I work flexible hours, but like 8 till 4 sort of thing rather than 9 till 5. But not part time or anything like that. Not contracted, or no one pays me any money to do this. So yeah, no sponsors, nothing like that.
Not yet.
And then in terms of performance, I mean, it's an incredibly difficult question to try and answer. I know I raced in Dubai in February, and we think we finished 7th or 8th overall from the kind of age group out of 2,000 people. They had a bit of a mess up with the timing results, and some people's swims got messed up, so the results are actually not definitive. But last year, I raced for the first time for the GB age group team, which you have to qualify for. And there's various distances you can do that for, and I'm down to do that again this year in September if that race goes ahead, which is unlikely, but we still haven't had a decision.
Where can that lead you to? So you're doing GB stuff, that gets you into that some kind of training squad, or
no, it doesn't. It doesn't exist for long distance stuff. Right. So the Olympic distance, which people are more familiar with, to race that distance, there are tiers, but you very much need to have done it from a junior, and British Triathlon and so forth will pick you up. They normally go to the swim tryouts for young kids and then pull the fastest swimmers that aren't quite fast enough to go in the A group out and say, can you run and bike? It's kind of like rugby. If you're a winger, we can teach you to catch and possibly kick, but we can't teach you to run 100 meters in 11 seconds.
Yeah.
And once you can swim that fast, they can then potentially look to get you to race what we call the ITU, the races that you see on the TV that the Brownlees and so forth do. For anything longer than the Olympic distance, you essentially qualify by finishing a certain amount of time behind the winner, which has to be a professional in a race. And that does vary race to race. It can be as much as 12% if it's a big race, or it can be as little as 6 or 8%. So I think, to try and put it in some sort of context, I think I was kind of 8 or 9% behind the winner in Dubai. But to get a license, I would have had to have been closer to kind of 4% because it's a quick course. It's not a championship race. If it was Hawaii, the World Championships, or the Half Ironman World Championships, the time is a bit bigger because the field's a bit stronger.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's difficult to say. I do generally do it because I love it, rather than I'm not chasing like to be a professional, what have you.
Yeah, so your end game is just, I love the sport. It's not necessarily to get sponsored and stuff, but if that was a byproduct, great. But it's definitely that. I mean, if the World Championship long course goes ahead in September, I want to go there to try and win it and be the age group world champion. I'm no doubt am I there to compete and want to win it. Yeah.
But even winning it wouldn't necessarily qualify me as a professional. So it's very difficult to do. There's no money in it, especially if you just scrape in. They only pay to like 5th, 6th position, and that's like €500 at a race. Like by the time you go to France to do that, there's a big balance between, do you race top of the age group field where you might get some sponsorship money and some brands will be more interested in you, or do you go race at the back of the pro field and get your ass kicked, sort of thing. So it's a difficult one. At the moment, I just love it. It's a lifestyle. I'm lucky enough that my girlfriend's pretty good at it as well, so we kind of travel together and race together, and
yeah. And I think so. Your Instagram, and it's funny. I normally can't handle people who post a lot, who blog a lot, and who do everything. But pretty much from the moment you started this, I've followed it, and I've been fascinated by just the journey that you've taken. But I think one thing I want to get onto is we've always got these great graphics. I don't know if I've got one on my desk. I've got one over there actually, but like the iceberg, where you don't see how big the underneath the water part of the iceberg is, and all that hard work and stuff. And that's what I want to talk to you about now, because I've watched so many videos of you. I mean, you did the other day. Was it a 3 hour training ride on your bike, but on a turbo trainer? And that's just a basic part of your training.
Yeah, I think last weekend we did Amy's first 100 miles indoors, which was just under 5 hours. This weekend I was helping a friend who was virtual Everesting online, and we did 4 hours on the indoor trainer. But and riding indoors is different to riding outdoors, because you don't necessarily get to freewheel like rest. So you can normally multiply the time indoors by 1.5 to kind of what it would be outdoors. It can be quite taxing on your legs, because you're just constantly pedaling rather than all those little micro breaks you get out on the road, or you stop at a set of traffic lights or what have you. So there's definitely plenty of hours spent. Now, I mean, indoor training is great in terms of being time efficient. So it's not necessarily lockdown that's driving the long turbos. They're kind of a staple part of the training diet anyway.
Yeah. But it's a hard training. I mean, you train a lot, don't you? Do you give people maybe, let's say you got a week? What's your rough schedule for your week? How do you split the 3 disciplines? And
so, well, there's 4 disciplines. 4 disciplines. Exercise-wise, because you definitely cannot neglect strength and conditioning and doing some gym work and stuff. So right now, what we at? We're at about 5 hours of running a week. Normally 4 runs, maybe 5 if the longer run isn't as long, sort of thing. But 4 or 5 runs a week. Cycling is probably 6 times a week. Have 1 day off the bike. And anywhere from kind of 11 to 15 hours of cycling. At the moment, I think I've been outdoors twice in the last 8 weeks, but normally that would be a bit more of a mix, but it's predominantly indoors. If the pool was open, we'd definitely be swimming 3, if not 4 times a week, but at the moment we're doing kind of indoor swims.
I see you in a lake with a band or something.
Yeah, I found a spot in a local river that I can swim in and tie myself to the fence, just to get. You miss it when you've done it for a couple of years. Since I started, I haven't been out of the pool for more than 2-3 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
So it's got to 7-8 weeks. You just miss the feeling of being in the water a little bit, and the water has started to get warm enough. Some of the lakes are opening up around us. We will definitely go into them very soon. But yeah, so 3 or 4 swims. Normally that would be about 12 to 15k in a pool over the week. But indoors it's just kind of 30 minutes on the bands with a warm up and cool down. And then 2 gym sessions or so, kind of 2 hours worth of kind of a bit more specific. It's nowhere near like lifting weights to prepare your body for rugby or anything like that. It's a lot of kind of dynamic stuff, a lot of one leg kind of balancing and all that core strength to run well kind of thing. And then stuff that's not recorded is probably 4 to 5 hours a week of foam rolling, stretching, massaging yourself, calf raises, to kind of keep yourself in one piece, which I've been lucky enough to do for kind of a couple of years. It does require a bit of tender love and care sort of thing. So about between 20 and 25 hours at the moment a week.
And I think that's 25 hours of training is unbelievable, isn't it? And I that's the point I want to get across to the kids is if you want to be good at something, you've got to work incredibly hard. because they often don't see the bit beforehand. But you've picked up a sport. You obviously invested heavily in it, and I know you had a coach. I don't know if you still have a coach. We certainly had a coach building all those skills. And I think certainly I want to know, and I imagine everyone wants to know, is what's your biggest tip to getting faster? I think I remember you just saying years ago, not to answer you the question I just asked, but was it just about consistency?
Yeah,
that's it. Just got to keep doing it.
Yeah. It's consistency week to week, and then consistency year on year, which you see the progression. So definitely week to week, you're much better, say, for running, for example. If you can run 40k a week for 10 weeks, you'll be a lot better than running 60k one week, 20k the next, and so forth. People that have those spikes or that sort of thing, because it's normally due to injury or their body's letting them down, sort of thing. So building up to a kind of volume that you can withstand, and then kind of going from there. I mean, when I've still got my training notes from my first Ironman and stuff, which I didn't have a coach at the time. I was kind of bluffing it. I wasn't doing more than 8 to 10 hours a week. And it's only now in my third year, kind of, am I able to, a 20-hour training week doesn't scare me, as that would be the absolute peak 18 months ago. Like, a couple of weeks, 6 weeks out from a race, would I do a couple of weeks of that volume and I'd be exhausted. And once you start stringing weeks and blocks together, and then you go on to do 3, 4, 5 years, you'll shoot kind of through the ranks as such, or I hope so. That's the plan anyway. But
and another thing I'm really interested in is, I suppose, in terms of mental strength when you're shattered to get on the bike or to put on your wetsuit, go into a lake, or go for a run. How do you drive yourself to do that? I think, I mean, for this podcast, that's teachers, that's parents, that's kids. How do they, when they can't be bothered, get up and go? What's your drive?
God, if I knew the answer to that, it'd be easy, wouldn't it?
Is it just that end goal? You just know, you just want to be the best you can in the sport.
Some of it is so I can eat as much food as I want to eat. Genuinely. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd be massive.
Is it just in you? It's just there. There's just a drive.
It's kind of just there. I always tell myself that I'm doing things that other people aren't willing to do. Yeah. Like, that if this is hard for me, or it's not for everyone. This is why on that day, say September the 12th, this race goes ahead, and my mum's crying at the side of it, like, wow, look how good he is. Even my mum doesn't have a clue necessarily. She's starting to learn over the years but how much time and effort I put into it. But yeah, every time I do feel a bit low, or the motivation is kind of down a bit, I just think about that day when I get to show off in the sense of, like, to the people I love and care about, kind of what I can do. And that's kind of what I think about. I've got 2 little nieces. One of them's been there from the start. She's nearly 4 now, so she literally came to the first race, and she's been to pretty much every one. And even she has noticed the difference. She's now on a little bike and stuff, and she wants to ride it because Uncle Ross rides a bike. And yeah, that's the kind of thing I think about. But it's hard to answer, because, not to like sound like a muppet, but I just don't have, it's very rare I feel like that. I absolutely I very rarely kind of think, oh, I don't like this or what have you. And the other thing to do on the days where you don't fancy that session or whatever it is, then do something you want to do. If you don't want to do that bike session, but you want to go and ride to your favorite spot or your favorite coffee place or whatever, then go and do that instead. Don't, if you're having to force it and it's kind of not fun, then don't do it. I believe in that in most things in life. If it's not fun, then I'm not. No one's holding a gun to my head.
Yeah. That's great advice. It's great advice for them.
So if it stops being fun, stop doing it and do what is fun, essentially.
Yeah. But as we touched on as well, you're lucky that you say you're 3 years into this journey
Yeah.
into triathlons, because people who start it young tend to burn out. But also, you were saying that the top guy, whoever won the championship, was 39. So you could have 10 years in this profession.
Yeah. So the top guy, Jan Frodeno, was I think he podiumed in Beijing. Is it Beijing or like in ITU? So he's gone right through short course and become one of the great sort of thing. And in the last kind of 5 to 6 years has dominated the kind of Ironman distance. And by no means do I think, he's 10 years older than me. Do I think in 10 years time I could be as good as he is? But going back to that consistency thing, I still think that there's another 2 years of doing what I do, and I think that there's no reason why I can't be going to these championship races and winning them. And and the guys I speak to that are winning them now, are basically 2 years ahead of where I am.
Yeah.
You can look at training data and results and stuff, and you can see the progression in these people, and it is a case of you can track it almost in terms of the commitment and what have you and stuff. There's very few people that start in their mid-20s and within a year are winning it. And if they are, they turn pro almost straight away, and then they accelerate through the pro ranks.
Yeah.
The kind of to really, do well in if you define well as getting on the podium and all that sort of stuff, then it takes 3, 5, 6 years of being committed, being consistent, surrounding yourself with the right people, and learning from a lot of mistakes and sort of thing, and making those mistakes, and then hopefully get your moment in the limelight.
Yeah. I mean, touching on data, because this is what stresses me out, and it shouldn't do because I'm a terrible runner. But I look at I guess if I go on a run and that first split is poor or not as good as my last one, that annoys me. And I'm not consistent. I've run now consistently for a month, and I've taken I'm a front rower. I took my time from a plodding 6:13 pretty much. That's how fast I seem to be doing kilometers. So 1 kilometer would be about 6:13.
6:13 miles, pretty good.
Yeah. And I've taken it now to 5:13. So in a month, I've improved a minute, and I've got fast. I've done 4:45 my fastest that I've done a K. So it is building. But what stresses me out is if I'm not doing well in a run, I feel like motivation's gone completely. And do you ever get things like that where you're, the data, because you obviously work on Swift, you've got all your data, you've got so much stuff. I literally use Strava. But they've got all that stuff going on. Does it ever affect you when you're doing it? Or again, do you go back to what you said about, I just love it, that actually if you're not doing brilliantly, you just go, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do as best as I can today.
I think, I'm an engineer, so I absolutely love data, and I love spreadsheets, and I love, analyzing stuff. In training, though, I think it has a time and a place. So from the first coach I had, who I was with for about 18 months, I only really ever used heart rate. We never looked at pace, particularly during the run anyway. And the same for cycling and what have you. There's so many variables, the condition, the terrain, all that sort of stuff. So you can do some pretty basic tests to work out your heart rate, and you can go run at X heart rate, and over time you'll probably see the pace come down against that heart rate if you train. To put it in like some kind of comparison to some degree, so my new coach who I started with in March this year, we do use pace a bit more, but I only use pace for intervals or kind of the key run session a week. So yesterday I had a speed run and I had some targets to hit. But if I go out for an hour, and an easy aerobic hour sort of thing, he doesn't like seeing anything faster than 5-minute kilometer pace.
Right.
And if I went and ran a 5K next weekend or what have you, I'd hope it starts with 16 minutes. And my easy running is 5 30-minute kilometers. And I think a lot of people, I don't know your data explicitly, but my friends that don't do it, they run for a bit of fun or to get fit. Every run is the same pace, and they're trying to beat last week's run. Oh, it was 5 minutes. This week I want to run 4 minutes.
That's exactly what I'm like.
Yeah. So to get better at running, you have to do some easy running, some interval running, some longer effort stuff, and what have you. Whether you use perceived effort, heart rate, pace, whatever you use, but there has to be that difference.
Yeah.
If you the park run is absolutely great, but a lot of people run park run and that's their only run a week, and they try and PB almost every week. They want to go faster than that. And I take my hat off. If that's you're going out, you're doing some exercise, it's great. I love running park run with 400 or 500 other people, but you're never going to get any faster chipping away 1 second or two at a time.
Yeah.
You need to mix up the intensity within your kind of workout, and it can be as simple as sprint to that lamppost, walk the rest. Sprint to that lamppost, walk the rest. One easy run. You don't have to have a fancy GPS watch and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But you can look at people who they can run a marathon in X time, and then you look at their easy pace and you think, well, okay, I can't run that fast. Maybe I should be actually running slower, or trying to hit 5-minute 30 pace on every run. It isn't realistic.
Yeah. If you rocked up at a park run, how would you do?
I've won a park run before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It really depends. There's some pretty competitive ones. Like Dulwich is one of the. I think Alex Yee set the parkour record there, and I think before Christmas I ran like 17:20, and I came 25th. And then the one I won in Cornwall, I think I ran like 19 minutes. So it's horses for courses a little bit on that sort of thing. But yeah, like if I wanted to open the taps, I'd hope I'd be up the front somewhere. Sort of.
Yeah. Right. So, mate, this has been such an interesting chat today. I want to just go down. I've got a couple questions, just like quick fire questions, just nothing taxing at all. Do you know what's your fastest 5K?
16:58.
And what do you reckon it was when you started? Do you have any data on that?
Yeah, so
rugby days.
Well, what did I do? I ran 10K shortly after signing up, and I think I did 44 minutes.
Okay, so you're always pretty fast.
So about 22, 21 maybe. I remember when I first started running, I did the same thing. Every run had to be sub 5-minute kilometers, and I'd run around 2 in common, and every run I'd add a K on each time. And yeah, that now I love it when I get to run slower than 5-minute kilometers. It's easy. Just have a plod and look at the scenery.
Yeah. And do you listen to music when you run, or are you a podcast? Are you Rigby's?
A bit of a mix, but also a mix of I don't listen to anything.
Really? Oh, I can't do that because then my brain starts telling me to stop.
It's really important to listen to your feet. That's my top tip. And also, we talk about mental side. You can't wear headphones in an Ironman, and for that 3 hours or so that you're running a marathon for, in my case, you've got to be able to be kind of comfortable with your own thoughts and you fight those demons. So longer runs or faster runs, I don't tend to necessarily wear anything, or I turn the music off for that bit and then I turn it back on for the cool down sort of thing.
Yeah. Favorite discipline?
I love the bike. The bike's my favorite sort of thing.
I think I'd love to ride that bike as well.
It is fun.
Treat.
Totally
different one. You what book are you reading?
What book am I reading?
Time.
I don't read.
No, you're like me.
I read papers. I'm reading a paper on fat oxidization at the moment and fasted training. But yeah, but that's for my own knowledge bank. Yeah,
like that. And then just because this podcast was essentially for children and about late specialization, because we don't encourage early specialization at all. And I actually had someone I had a parent at the gate once say, my son's good at football. Should we just do football? Should we sign him up to a football club? All the rest of it. And he's 8. And I was like, no, you shouldn't. Train. Do as many sports as possible. But what would your advice be from your experience, just to kids now?
Yeah, do a variety of sports. Go and find a sport that none of your friends do. And like you'll meet other people there, make other friends, sort of thing. But I mean, parents will hate it. My mum probably still to this day is recuperating the costs of the amount of equipment she had to buy, because one week it was tennis and the next week it was something else, and sorts of stuff. But yeah, I did ballet. What other stuff did I do? Table tennis was we went through that progression. Squash, just have a go at it all. And although you mentioned I was quite sporty and stuff, but I genuinely was never in the first team. No matter what club I went to, whether it was a national free rugby club or something, I was always in the second team. And you're smiling. I made one game for London Cornish first team, so I was always the guy that showed up every week, Mr. Dependable, and just it should have been flashing in my eyes. Endurance is your thing.
Yeah.
You could just run all day or whatever.
And do you think you were missed at school for that? Or do you think it's just part of your, experiences that you? Because T, my wife's a good runner. She can run at about 4:30, 4:20, 4:30, and she doesn't do it. She'll just go for a run, and that's how she runs. And I always think, God, you were missed. You were missed in some way, or? Yeah,
probably. It's hard to say.
And is that down to opportunities at school? Was there not? Maybe there wasn't a running club, or maybe you didn't have the chances to do it, or there's probably loads of variables, aren't there? But
I think some of it is who I've become as a person, what motivates me, and who other bits and bobs that have made me want to pursue this to some degree. But there's it's worth looking up. There's a lady called Lucy Gossage. She's like she's one of the most decorated long distance triathletes anyway. She's only just retired to some degree. She talks a lot about this with regards to schools and stuff, and how she found it very late in life. It's because an Ironman for most humans takes a day, and a PE lesson isn't a day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You as a teacher, PE yourself, you only do those kind of team sports with short bursts of effort and sort of stuff like that, or skill sports like tennis and what have you. You never say, "Oh, could you run for 3 hours?" and find out if you can, or is suited to that kind of genetically, or has the right systems for it, because you just don't do it at school. And so, and she was herself. She I think she won her first Ironman as an amateur, 27 or something, and then went on to win 14, 15 of them, sort of thing, and be a pro. But it was never identified at school, because you don't do that. Yeah,
very interesting point. I like that.
Yeah.
We don't tailor anything to 3 or 4 hours worth of.
Well, also, if you did, I imagine even if it was for an hour, right, kids, you're going to run around the field for an hour. Who can run the furthest in the hour? You get reported.
Yeah.
Or they think, Will hasn't done his lesson planning. He's going right.
If I haven't done a lesson plan, it is running.
Yeah.
I've been too busy. Right, we're just going to go for cross-country run. I've actually found a couple of really good sportsmen and women through running. So I had a running club at a school in Clapham, so it's Parkgate School. And there was a girl who wasn't on my radar for sport at all. She was year 4, and we were doing a running club, and she was in with the year 6s, and we just had a little race, and she came first. And I was like, oh my God. And by the time she got to year 6, she was 18 for everything. I think she ended up being our sports captain, just through the confidence of finding that sport. And again, because you've got someone who's very fit and very athletic, you can bolt on the rest. And then at this school, we've got a boy called Matthew Worley who loves running. And he went from someone who wasn't really considered in those higher teams, but because I found him, and his running was so good, and he's a good sprinter as well. He got his chance in a rugby match. So we had an A and B team playing side by side. We were 2 tries down with about 4 minutes to go. And it was a wide pitch, and I just thought I'll get him across, put him into the A team. He scored a hat trick because it's just his natural speed. And then he was in my A team, top try scorer in the under 11s this year. So it is. I think it's a very key sport. And as you say, you find someone who have got the wheels and the fitness, and then you can build bits in around them.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, can I just say thank you very much. If anyone wants to follow him on Instagram, I assume it's I'm a bit old, @triathlon_Ross. Is that correct?
Yeah. I get a lot of
Twitter. But
No.
I think if they followed you on that, it's very interesting just to see the training methods, the amount of effort. I think it's a real good insight.
The lifestyle, the eating
Yeah.
well, sleeping well, all that sort of stuff. That's the key.
Yeah. So get his followers up.
Yeah. I need to get ahead of Amy. She's overtaken me. So we've got 200 kids that can follow me.
Yeah, 250. We'll get them in. I'll make it compulsory. Right, mate. Thank you so much. Just stay on because I'll stop recording. We'll have a chat afterwards. But thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Cheers.
So what becomes of you, my love, when they have finally stripped you off the handbags and the glad rags that your granddad